approximately 4,000 to 10,000 ads every day. It can say where the attention is going to be, but how it's going to be perceived, that's still a very human thing. A lot of the success of Netflix is based on their personalization that they did, the For You on TikTok, the For You on Instagram. All of these are functions of predictive AI. I still think after I'm done, you will still be a 6-year-old that does not know what predictive AI does, but I will try.
We've got a podcast to shoot.
Where's the camera?
Welcome back, Mo.
Thank you for having me again, Ben.
I really love having you on the podcast. Mo from Freakout, what do you do?
So, some changes since the last time that we spoke. I think last time when I met you, I was still working on the regional business side. I still do that, but currently I'm the VP of Product Marketing and Regional Business. In terms of the regional business, I work with multiple teams across Southeast Asia to enable them in any capacity that they require me to. That includes working with multiple vendors, working with strategies as well as go-to-market ways to kind of engage the right clients for Freakout. Along with that, I also work on the marketing side, and that's where a lot of my time is spent nowadays to kind of just reiterate what Freakout does, how they do it, and along with that, I of course focus on taking the insights that come with the first two positions and helping Freakout create and develop better products, and then helping the advertisers reach their end goals.
Okay. And before we get into talking about this kind of big topic of predictive AI, especially for advertising,
Right.
What's Freakout?
So Freakout is an advertising platform. I would say Freakout helps advertisers showcase their or advertise across multiple digital formats, mediums, and it does so with the help of multiple products across the mediums and formats that the advertiser wants to reach. We work with everything right from mobile to desktop to CTV, and within those spaces as well, we work with multiple formats to capture attention. So as we say, it's not just enough to capture attention anymore. We need to actually capitalize on the attention with the right kind of messaging. We want to not just have advertising with context, but also a direction that will help advertisers explain their product to the consumers more effectively. And it's not just about creating the right kind of platform. Right now, the biggest challenge that advertisers face in the market is cutting through the noise and reaching the right consumers with the right message.
Okay.
Right? So that's what Freakout does. Freakout helps advertisers reach the right audiences in the right way with the right message at the right time.
Cool. Well, obviously, in the last 2 years since you were on Honey Never Sleeps, so much has changed in the world, let alone just in our roles and our businesses.
Right.
And predictive AI, and especially for advertising, is going to probably be a massive changer, like game changer for everybody. So if you could kind of paint us a picture when we're talking about, predictive AI, how is this going to help us optimize ads, and what are kind of some of the best practices we're seeing from Freakout?
Okay. So before I get started, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Go short and then into long.
Okay.
Think of me as a 6-year-old
Right.
that does not have a clue what predictive AI means.
I still think after I'm done, you will still be a 6-year-old that does not know what predictive AI does, but I will try. So predictive AI is probably the only branch of AI that deals not just with the facts of, and the answers are not really fact-based, but they are more predictive in nature. They're probabilistic answers, they're not factual answers. Now that comes in as one of the latest developments in AI. So as we know, AI is a term that has been used, abused, and been repeated over and over again, especially over the last couple of years, right? However, AI has a few core functions. One is data analysis. The second one is data sorting. The third is extraction. So when you have text or when you have some handwritten notes and you utilize your camera to kind of capture what's written, that's the extraction part of it. Then we come to actual LLM or LLM is large language module. That's what your GPT-4s and DeepSeek etc. are based on, wherein they are making AI more human-like and conversational. And the last one is predictive. Predictive has come about as a cross-section between data analysis application of AI. So it actually collects, gathers, sorts, and analyzes the data. But then it doesn't just stop there. The AI actually goes one step ahead, and based on the data that's provided to it, it tries to predict what's going to happen next. So in terms of the creative aspect of predictive AI that you asked me about, predictive AI can be trained on multiple models, right from past engagement to past performance to we are working with the predictive AI that actually has been trained over eyeball tracking data as well as neuroscience data from over 200,000 participants, and this data has been fed into an AI that then, utilizing these data points, now looks into certain creatives and predicts what kind of responses these creatives will generate from audiences, where the eyeballs are going to be, where or what kind of engagement is the user going to follow, what will the user read first, second, third, fourth, what kind of memory or what kind of recall can the brand expect from that creative based again on the previous data points. So predictive AI in short is just a way to predict the probabilistic answers to what can be expected based on the past data. And this is something that humans have been doing for a long time. We have historians, we have analysts that have been studying past data and predicting what is next. But AI does it with a lot more data points, accuracy, and with a lot more, accuracies. I think I summed it up with accuracy. Yes.
And that's the short version.
I had to dive into a little bit of the long version because of the 6-year-old comment, but yes. Of course, this is a topic that we can talk about for a long time.
Well, how does this kind of, I mean, if you think about it in more of a traditional method, it's kind of like A/B testing, right? How does this move beyond? Is it because it's way faster? Because obviously I would look at previous data and make a decision to change my messaging, change my imagery. How are we going beyond that?
Right. So what you mentioned is optimization. Looking at past data and making future changes is optimization or prediction based on what our insights were.
Yeah.
A/B testing is a bit different. A/B testing would be to launch 2 separate creatives with just a couple of minor changes, right? And then try and see which one performs better, right? However, with A/B testing, you still can't do this pre-launch. You need to actually create 2 versions of the creative. Then you need to launch them, and then you need to have enough number of people see the creatives, react to the creatives, engage with the creatives, and then you will have an answer as to which one is better. But then that too is restricted to which one of the 2 is better. It still does not give you an answer as to what is the next or what is the recommended way to go, right? So predictive AI, especially
in what worked and what didn't out of the 2 options, but it's not actually really looking at the core.
Exactly. So what predictive AI would do is it would analyze the creative that you have created, the first draft of your creative. It would then, on the basis of the past data points, analyze how full the screen looks, what kind of cognitive demand. When I say cognitive demand, how much of your the average user's comprehending or cognitive power will it require to understand the creative effectively or fully. Then where are the different things placed? Where is the product name placed? Where is the brand logo placed? where is the product image placed, where is the tagline placed, and ultimately where is the call to action placed. It will then, on the basis of the past data, recommend what changes could be made and score the creative on a likeliness of it performing better or worse.
So me being, having a marketing team who are creating creatives for different content, we can pop that piece of creative into this predictive AI and it will say, actually, that's rubbish, it needs to do something different. And it would advise, or that's great, but tweak this little bit because we're going to miss out on the recall.
Right. So that again, there are some steps to reach from point A to point B.
Okay.
The first one would be, and that brings me to one of the things that probably I'm going to touch on a little bit later, but AI is your co-pilot. It is like the most brilliant executive assistant that you can ever have, but it's not a decision maker.
Okay.
Right? So when your team will put up a creative, right, it has certain objectives in mind. It has some, your team wants to either get more call to actions, like some actions performed. It wants to get some kind of engagement, or maybe the team just wants the creative to have like a brand recall effect, wherein the memory is the most important aspect of it, or maybe just a distinguishing. So if it's a product launch, then you want to focus more on the product name rather than the brand name. In each of these situations, you would put that input into the AI saying that this is the intended objective or this is the intended goal. The AI then will identify on its own certain aspects of the creative, but beyond that, you can still add more input saying that, oh, this is not my area of interest, this is my area of interest, or I would want here or this part to be highlighted more, and then it will give you recommendations based on this.
Okay.
Something from as basic as color schemes to something much more engaging like ad copies or changes in tone that would get better results.
And just to make sure I'm following you fully.
Right.
So it would be more that we've created some content and we've started to advertise it to get the predictive on what happens next, or have I missed you completely?
Not really. So there are two ways of it, right? I mean, as I said, most AI is based on historic data.
Okay.
Now it depends on whether you want the data to be based on your campaign itself or whether you want historic data from a more generalistic science standpoint. Okay. So this data, this predictive AI that we are talking about already has its historic data from the 200,000 plus interviews or sessions that it did with multiple people from different ethnicities. Like that would give you a cross section of society and say, okay, in general, where would most people look? What would be the attention like in different parts? But sorry, I'm just going to add one more point, which is what you're talking about is also possible wherein if you feed the data from your advertising campaigns into an AI and say, analyze this and tell me what areas do I need to maximize on in order to get a different objective or in order to get this particular objective.
Hi, Beanie. She's very interested.
Oh, she is. She looks, I can see how interested she is.
Very, very AI savvy dog. Okay, so for me then, if I'm coming in to start leveraging predictive AI for my creative campaigns, it's going to look at the history of everything my company has done before,
right, and
determine, okay, my campaign objective is to get people to sign up to an event I'm hosting.
Right.
It would look throughout the historical data points that we've got throughout the whole company's history or a period that we set.
Right.
And then ultimately go, okay, you should probably tweak your creative to look a little bit like this. You should change your copy to include some of this because this call to action worked really well. We estimate that would work better. Is that kind of what it's doing?
Yes, to an extent. But the difficulty over here is going to be how do you input all the data points? Because there are some data points that are subjective.
Yes.
Right? There are some data points that are quite clear. This creative performed better than this creative. This event had more signups than this event. Right? But then there are a lot of objective parts to this conversation as well, wherein was this event in a better venue? Was this event advertised for more number of days? So it becomes quite difficult to take your data and input it into a system as much as we would have liked it. We aren't there yet, where we can take individual data points and accurately paint a picture for the AI. But what you can do in that context is you can add the numbers, you can add the data, and then give the AI much more context as well by inputting those prompts, by saying, if we were to, or this was one of the most successful events, these are the data points. Now can you analyze them and tell me which ones, what do you think are the core reasons for this? Then this is something that I like to do myself, and this is not just predictive AI in terms of what we are talking about, but also generalistic or LLM AIs as well. Utilize AI as more than just a data verification source or an analysis source. Put the data in a more decision-making role as well, saying that if you were my marketing director and this is what the company does, this is what the data points are. If you were the marketing director, give me 3 points where you would make changes. Then when you have an answer, create another additional data point saying that now pretend that you are the CFO of my company and tell me 3 ways that we would be overspending. Now act as a brand manager or a client and say which one of these, or what parts of the strategy would really appeal to you more. Now you're putting the AI in multiple roles and getting an answer that is based on, and that's what AI is, the mass consensus, the general data available across the internet. Right?
Yeah.
So yes. So you have to take the data that you have from your company, add context to it for the AI, and on the basis of that, yes, definitely you can extrapolate a lot more data points as to predicting what can be done, what should be done, what can be changed, what should not be changed, etc.
So if we look at kind of it's hard to call anything traditional these days because we're innovating so much.
Yes.
But let's think of the traditional process today,
Right.
without the predictive AI. Where are some of the sort of inefficiencies that you see that predictive AI are going to completely fix, or perhaps at least make more efficient?
Well, especially on the creative side, because that's where we start talking about. So traditionally, focus groups are expensive, time consuming. You need a lead time of at least 2 to 3 weeks. That's for the smallest focus groups. Then most of the answers that you get from human panels or focus groups or any other method are always going to be subjective. There's always going to be that subjectivity and objectivity where it's going to be much more difficult to say what exactly is not wrong or what should be changed. There is a general idea as to, oh, this is good or this is not good, but then what do we do with that information? It again goes back into the creative process, and the creative process needs to start all over again.
Yeah.
And again, what the output that you're going to get, there's no certainty as to whether it's going to be something that is looked at in a favorable light or not. Predictive AI actually takes a lot of the guesswork out of this. So what it does is it says, okay, this is not based on a feeling or an intuition, or it's not based on a creative bias of any sort. This is based on certain data points, and of course you can change the data points, you can change the approach, you can change the objective. But if this is what you're looking for, this gives you the most chance at a successful campaign. But that's not the end of it. You always need to apply a human layer on top of this, because
So research companies aren't dead just yet then?
Of course not. And as I think this is something that you highlighted recently on LinkedIn as well, that 2 years back when we spoke in 2023, we spoke about the fact that marketers are not going to lose their jobs. Marketers are going to lose their jobs to marketers who don't know AI, right? So, sorry, let me... marketers are not going to, marketers are not going to lose their job. Marketers who know AI will take the jobs of marketers who don't know AI. And the same thing goes for doctors, engineers, lawyers, everyone along the same. So research companies are never going to go out of business, but what's going to happen is they're going to be focused on a lot more humanizing the data points, or creating the after getting the data, how do you utilize the data? Ideating based on top of the data. So the data points are available, but how do you actually maximize on the insights that have been received? That's where the research focuses are going to shift to. That's the way that our creative teams are focusing as well. Creating the storylines, the concepts, the themes, how or what should be the focus. This is all still decided or should be decided by the creative teams. What is left of the AI is, if this is what we want, how can you make it happen?
Yeah.
It
We want
is
this, build it.
Exactly. It is an accelerator, not the decision maker.
Agreed. And maybe you could share some other sort of scenarios where we could use, or predictive AI, where we can use predictive AI for perhaps significant outcomes, especially for advertisers.
So, for example, if we are talking about certain advertisers, as I said, across the life cycle of a product, there are different things that need to be highlighted. And this is something that's quite basic marketing understanding or knowledge, but not everyone utilizes in the best possible way. There is a launch phase, there is a growth phase, there's a maturity phase, and then there's a decline phase, right? And in each of these, there are different aspects of a product that need to be highlighted. So in the growth phase, we are focusing more on the product and leveraging the existing brand that you know the product is launched under, right? So say tomorrow you have an umbrella brand and you're launching a new product within it, you would want to kind of extrapolate some of the key association points from the main brand into the product so that people associate it much better, they relate to the product, and then you're going to focus on the key points, and your objective is going to be brand recall, because when someone goes to a shop, you would want them to remember the name of the product that that you want them to remember. In the growth phase, again, we are going to be more focused on the hyper growth. So that's where you are looking at more action based.
Yeah, and I'm most interested in the growth phase. If I were to give you a scenario, let's say you're a new business, because there are huge amounts of new entrepreneurs coming into the market these days, because AI has obviously reduced all the barriers of entry. So let's say I'm Ruth, and who's our producer, by the way, and I have decided to start my podcast studio business.
Right.
And I want to advertise to people to start finding more podcasts that I can produce.
Right.
How do I get started with using AI in advertising? What's going to give me a little edge today?
Well, I think the first thing would be to identify and prioritize your market. Right. I mean, with the use of AI and the data analysis and the extraction functions that we've spoken about, it has become a lot easier to do the research, right? Who requires the service? Where can I find myself a niche? What are the disruptions? Then the second thing that
so we use AI first to essentially narrow down our audience.
Yes.
To have a focus.
Identify our audience.
Identify and perhaps then narrow it down further if we wish, so that we get the right demographics, so that when we're advertising, we are advertising to the right people.
Right.
Because a lot of people, when they start, they waste a lot of money on tweaking those kind of demographical, tweakers.
Right.
Burn a bunch of money before they actually figure it out. But now we can research so quickly.
Exactly.
So that's one step.
And then the second phase would be, of course, the content creation that he does. Right? There is a lot of content creation that happens as a producer, but then to keep on working on what you're working on, and then also trying to create content for social media, which is a very different kind of content that needs to be created. It's basically taking shorter clips out of what work you're doing behind the scenes, creating more banners or posts. That all can be offset to an AI as well, which is saying that, okay, this is the general theme, this is a general template that I want, and now I need you to create 100 ad copies for me based on these data points, or these talking points. That again, you can have taken from a LLM, saying that talking to ChatGPT, I'm getting more information about my target audience. Again, using the method that I said, which is putting the AI in a role, so role-playing based model, with the AI saying that if you were the marketing manager, how would you create a strategy? Then taking those insights and putting it into Gen AI that can create the font, create the posts, exactly.
So we've researched our audience, we've niched it down to a very specific demographic. We've then created, say, 10 talking points and then 100 copies of blogs and posts that we can put on social media that are those talking points speaking to that audience.
Exactly.
All very quickly.
All very quickly.
What's our next step?
Next step is then going to be utilizing the inbuilt or native AIs included in the multiple advertising tools that are available. For example, the lookalike audience on Facebook, Google, etc. These are nothing but AI models that are running based on what kind of followers you already have on your pages. What you can actually create custom audiences based on certain talking points as well. People who are likely to be interested in certain aspects of production, etc., would be an interesting audience to kind of target as well. The next thing would be to also utilize the predictive capacity of the AI in understanding who are most likely to require a producer. So who might not require a producer right now, but which audiences are most likely to require a producer in the next year or so, right? So for example, a lot more people are moving towards, or you can actually utilize AI to narrow down all the creators, all the social influencers right now that may have a decent following, but they are not yet at the level where they can have their own teams and producers, and create a hit list or a target list of those that you can start reaching out to directly.
So in theory, you could use AI to go, okay, that's an influencer.
Right.
And they have been growing month on month follower count by X percentage. Probably in 6 months' time, if they maintain this level of growth,
Right.
they'll be in my ICP. So let's start some form of branding towards them so they think of us.
Right. In fact, you don't even need to do that. All you need to do is saying that, can you find me creators with 10,000 followers who have a month-on-month growth of X percentage, and who are going to reach 100,000 in the next or next 6 months. That's it. It'll auto create it. Now you have a list of creators. Now you can also then use AI to create mass messaging, right? You can use AI to correctly have the right kind of sales funnel for yourself, process funnel for yourself, and then ultimately you can help or you can convert a lot faster with certain talking points that are generated. So all the research that you need to do about a particular creator, it's good business practice that when you're going for a meeting to know more about the person that you're going to meet. Now with AI, again, you can just input their page into your AIs and get an understanding of what they are all about, certain aspects of them,
and ultimately then that just leads into when we actually start advertising.
Right.
We're not burning money to figure it out.
Right.
We already are a lot more accurate. We're already more focused on what looks like, or in this case, predictive of being our customer as they're growing.
Exactly. And that's for a starter or a small scale industry, right? For bigger brands that have been around for a lot longer time, they have a very different use case, right? As I said, creative predictive AI. Now we're talking about people who are spending millions of dollars in advertising every day or every month, right? You talk about your PepsiCos, you talk about your Unilevers, you talk about P&G, Nestle. Even A/B testing for them would be a very expensive exercise. Now they are utilizing predictive AI in a very different way and a much more segmented way. They also utilize AI across multiple aspects of their business, but especially on the creative side, what we are encouraging or what we are advocating, and that is why we have signed up, or that is why we have been working with this predictive AI tool, is that we want to utilize both the human creativity aspect that our team brings, as well as utilize a predictive AI tool to say where the focus is going to be, what kind of engagement, memory, etc. is going to happen with a particular creative. Then change those or take recommendations from the AI, optimize the creative, and then present the right copies to the advertisers, who will then launch them and inevitably save a lot more time and money.
Yeah, because if you're burning, let's see, burning is the wrong word. You're spending $1 million a week or a month or even a day. It's a huge amount of money, who that is. And if we can now reduce that burn, because now when we spend that $1 million a day, we know we're reaching the right kind of audience. We have predicted the kind of copy and content that needs to go to them.
Right.
We're going to have better conversions.
Right. And
Fundamentally, right?
yes, that's really well summarized. But one more key aspect of it is the sheer volume of ads that are there in the market right now, right? Now your PepsiCo is fighting against, or rather, like, you know, competing against not just Coca-Cola, but a lot of local drinks as well, a lot of health drinks as well, a lot of energy drinks as well. To be honest, your normal tea and coffee are also competitors to PepsiCo, right? In a way.
Yes, first.
First.
It's all for the same problem.
Exactly. So when we are looking at certain aspects, right? For example, because of the sheer number of ads, and when I say ads, I don't mean just the ads that you see on your phone. Everything, right from a billboard to an ad on your social media to an ad on the website that you're visiting to while you're playing your game, or on some news app, you know, the ad that you see, or even like, you know, the billboard that you see, you know, whether you're sitting at home or in the car, etc. All of these are ads, and a normal human at this point, at this day and age, is exposed to approximately 4,000 to 10,000 ads every day.
Wow.
Yes, shocking statistic, but it's something that we were also pretty shocked to hear, but that's true. Now there is something called ad fatigue, which is the normal human mind is so tired of seeing ads.
Becomes wallpaper, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The human mind is so amazing at blocking out things that they don't need that it will analyze any new information within the first 2 seconds. So if you have an ad, within the first 2 seconds, the human brain or the user is analyzing and deciding whether they want to continue reading more or seeing more of it, or just ignore it and move on. So now, from from the time that the user is exposed to an ad to the time that they decide to engage with the ad is 2 seconds, and in the first 2 seconds, where their eyeballs are going to be is what the predictive AI is predicting, and that is where you put your hook.
Yeah.
Then you utilize where the eyes naturally flow from that point to the next point. Then you will on the place where their eye flow is going to be natural. That's where you put the second most important thing. And then where you know the user's attention is going to be in the last 2 seconds, that's where you put the CTA.
Yeah.
So you are predicting everything right from attention to the engagement to how their eyes are going to move, and then utilizing that data to put the right key messaging in that right place.
And so predictive AI is helping us fight for that attention, which is very, very short,
Right.
and essentially turning your ad into a funnel itself.
Right. And predictive AI has done that, maybe not in the context of ads before, but a lot of the success of Netflix is based on their personalization that they did, the For You on TikTok, the For You on Instagram. All of these are functions of predictive AI, because they don't know it's for you. They cannot guarantee that you'll like the content, but what they're doing is
estimate it.
They're predicting
you keep
what
watching videos of this thing, we'll give you more videos like that thing.
Similar.
Yeah.
And still, in a way, it will try and diversify, because on any topic there is going to be only so much that the human brain can process. So it will also predict when are you going to get fatigued of the topic and start showing you a couple of other videos in the middle.
This could be adjacent. Oh yes, so if you're flicking through your TikTok or whatever,
right?
Let's say you see lots of videos about a business podcast,
right?
And then suddenly you've got like
a dog video,
a comedy, or
a dog video, and then you engage with it. Engage with it. Now it knows. Oh, this person likes business related news. It likes AI related news. It likes dog related videos.
And that's data for the advertisers as well.
More data for the advertisers. More ways to keep you engaged and on their app, because that's how they are making money. So predictive AI is being used in multiple ways on the creative side, or you can call it creative or business, however you want to post it, but it has been used for a long time and it will continue being used. It's just that now the AIs are getting better at it, and they're utilizing it in different aspects of
And now I would assume that it's easier to access this kind of AI.
Right.
Whereas previously you had your Instagrams that built these massive models into their product, but those weren't sort of these public products, or they were like behind the scenes.
Right.
But now as an advertiser, let's say if I'm using Freakout, I kind of get access to it, or if I'm using Meta or any of these kinds of.
So with Freakout,
platforms.
yes, we have a predictive AI creative tool that kind of sits that kind of works with our graphic team. We analyze your creatives, your storyboards in multiple ways before.
To find out that 2-second
Right.
eyeball.
We find
and
multiple
various,
data points, and then we kind of attack it to ensure that after capturing attention, which is what Freakout does through the multiple mediums and formats, you still are shown the right message and capturing the user's attention, driving it towards the right key points, and then capitalizing on it. In fact, like, because you spoke about how we have reached this point, one of the most interesting use cases or rather ways that AI was used in 2013, right? That's 12 years back.
Yeah.
12 years back.
Pre-chat GPT.
Pre-chat GPT.
Yeah, I think before you carry on, in the future, you know how we're like BCE and AD and all this. It's going to be just pre-chat GPT time.
Exactly, right? So in 2013, a Japanese bakery created an AI to identify. So at their checkout, instead of it being a manual process of having seeing what the user has got and charging them for it, the user could just put the item onto a platform, and they would, using predictive AI, identify which one is a croissant, which one is a bear claw, which one is a donut, and then they would charge you accordingly.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Now that was basically identifying based on pattern, because it's a very simple, very basic function of AI, just identifying what pattern a particular object is, and then utilizing it to make an analysis and then so on. Interestingly, in 2017, a group of scientists basically realized that this exact thing can be used to identify patterns in cancerous cells.
Oh, wow.
And then they actually created this AI that now, with 98% accuracy, predicts how a cancer is progressing or what kind of cancer it is based on the patterns in the cells.
And then I suppose based on that, then they know the best way to fight it.
Right. I mean, of course, knowing is.
I hope so.
Right. But the point being that all of this precedes a lot of the ChatGPT era, where a lot of the work, a lot of the foundational and the fundamental work had been done, and now just because of ChatGPT, it's much more commercialized and accessible, and that's why I have this concept called jargon of the month here. So AI was the jargon of the year, last year, and now we're still kind of carrying on with it. But that is one of the reasons that led to innovation of AI in multiple aspects of business as well. Right before the podcast, we were talking about how now having AI embedded into your business has become pretty much a necessity. That's
basic.
A point of parity. Every business is expected to have some sort of a AI component to it, and then how you build on top of that, that's where your differentiation comes in. So yes, I would say that this is the perfect way to kind of sum it up as to predictive AI being the next step in the overall progression of AI in marketing and advertising.
We kind of talked a little about humans briefly, and we talked about it 2 years ago. And I've got a question written here, which is because there's often discussions about AI replacing human roles, and especially in the context of ad creatives, which is seen as a very human, intuitive field. How do you see predictive AI collaborating with that human creativity? Do you think we're going to lose some of the creativity process? Or do you think it's just going to enhance our intuition? It's just automating the mundane? Or is it changing the creative process in other ways?
It is in short, it is supercharging the creative process, right? And
Superhuman creators.
superhuman creators, right? How to become a superhuman, or how to unlock your superpowers with AI,
Yeah.
right? Plugging you in over there on your own podcast. I don't know how that works, but the point over here is that, yet, as I said, even though AIs are getting much better at understanding human emotions and kind of understanding the semantics of language, it's far from a place where it can actually create, it can give you ideas, right? So your AI is going to be like the most efficient and the most brilliant intern that you have ever had, where they can come up, you can ask them to come up with 10, 20, 30 content ideas, but then you decide which one is relevant. You decide which one can be delved into much more. Then you can provide or ask them to do more research along those, within that topic. Then you can kind of get more out of that, and then you can find the right mix of what you want. Same way on the creative side, right from your copywriting to your creative graphics and everything else in the process, the design work, there is going to be a theme that is going to be given by or created by humans. There are agencies in place, there are graphic designers in place. Yes, maybe the extent to which tools, graphic designer tools are going to be required are going to be reduced. But instead of that, you are going to have more prompt engineers, people or graphic designers who can ideate flawlessly, or they can, I wouldn't say flawlessly, but you're going to have graphic designers or creators who can ideate, who can then visualize what something might look like. They will be able to create or give the right prompts to the AI, not only to create the first draft of it, but then to actually optimize, maximize on that idea. Smaller changes, more subtler changes, then utilize predictive AI to find out where the attentions are going to be, then take that again, rework on it, and then give you the final input. So you have a accelerator, not a co-creator.
But I think something you were touching on there, and something I noticed just a few weeks ago or last week. You may not have seen it. Did you see the Tesla ad? Have you
No,
seen it?
I haven't seen the
So
ad.
this kid who doesn't even work for Tesla created an ad of a woman running down her street, and she gets home and she runs past her Tesla Cybertruck, goes into the house, and she's checking her watch or what have you, and and a really beautiful ad that essentially, what's the word? It went to a lot of people. What's the word when it goes to a lot of
Viral.
people? Yes, it went viral. $0 for Tesla, $0 for the kid. He just used kind of 3 or 4 different AI products.
Right.
But he built an entire video ad without any creative skills, just prompting.
Right.
And so if I look at the human versus sort of machine in advertising,
Right.
I think that you're going to have the decision making, absolutely. That's going to remain human. But I think the creative process is going to change a lot too, as you were describing. It's the prompt engineers that are going to win.
Right.
So instead of someone who has the artistical skills, it's going to be like someone who has taste, someone who has that, they know what we need to create.
Right.
Right. And now they just need to learn how to prompt it. And I think that's the future I see. And I think that's something very disruptive. So I think designers, for example, if you have a job as a designer, I don't think you're going to have a job for very long unless you evolve to being someone who prompts your designs.
But that is the natural progression in multiple professions.
No, I know. Sticking to this
and
profession.
Even if let's take a step back, right? And this might be completely out of context, and we can look into that. But technically, an interior designer that you kind of hire to do your house, right? They are going to ideate, they're going to draw, they are going to actually create the idea, but the actual masons who are going to work on it, or like the workers who are going to work on it, the contractors who are going to work on it, they don't have the creativity. So over here, you're still not replacing the creative aspect of it. The creative aspect lies in the ideation. It always has. There have always been doers. It was a little different on the graphic side because there were some specialized tools that needed to be used in order to create or to bring to life the idea. But these people in the creative field already have a head start. They already have been working on creatives. They know how to set their creatives apart. If you just utilize AI to ideate, to then create, and then to launch, you're going to have an ad that might stand out right now, but in a couple of years, it's going to be quite generic because that's what AI does. It's creating a mass consensus ad. But with most businesses, or with all businesses rather, with your goal during advertising is to stand out, is to cut through the noise. It's to kind of grab the attention of the user with something that's new, that's different. How do you do that? That's still going to be the creative aspect. So yes, prompt engineering is really important as a tool, but that can be learned. Ideating and having those classy ideas and the vision of what it's going to look like. Because again, once this is common practice, right, what's going to happen? Then it's going to come about efficiency and how quick you can get this out. If you require 200 to 300 prompts to get the desired result versus if you can ideate it in a certain way, get it out in a few hours or a day or two, rather than spending weeks on it. Then on top of that, taking the raw video out and then also working on it on your own tools to give it that extra touch, and then coming out with the final result. Well, that's perfect.
No, I completely agree. Where I think the org chart will shift would be you'd have a creative director, but that creative director won't have 5-6 graphics designers. In fact, they probably won't have any. Depending on the size of your organization and how much you're producing, you might have some prompt engineers under you. But if you could be responsible as the creative director to come up with the idea and then leverage your AI agents to build your vision. And you know what works, you're happy, you're happy or not happy, and eventually you come out with your finished product. And it's not going to be as simple as one person instead of 5-6 people. Again, it will depend on your organization. But I think it will come down to things like that. And I think the marketing team and vibe marketing, which is a new, it's going to get way more common. You're going to hear more and more about it, just like we've seen it with vibe coding. Software developers, forget about it. That industry is gone, right? The writing is on the wall. And I wouldn't say that the writing is on the wall for marketers, but I would say it is on the wall for the specialist roles. Like if you are good at copywriting or graphics design or animations or whichever kind of part, I think those roles are going to be massively disrupted, and the winners out of those people will be the ones who figure out how to vibe market quicker than the rest.
I would
we can have different opinions.
The thing is that I don't think it's going to be as drastic. It's not going to be an apocalyptic kind of a situation where all marketers will be fired, right? And of course, I don't even think it's going to go to a ratio from where there are 6 to go to 1 or 2. I think there is going to be a more realistic approach taken to this, which is now that we can create more, we can create more efficiently, let's create more. The volume will increase. I don't think that it's going to be that we reduce the number of people, because there will be certain reductions and there will be certain redundancies that come into place.
Labor arbitrages.
Right. But now there is going to be, now thinking about the way that you have described a creative team, or the creative director is now definitely going to have someone that does creative research on their team. That was a role that did not exist before. Then they're going to have prompt engineers, as you rightly mentioned, because a creative director's role is going to be to ideate, to actually create the vision, and then just tell the prompt engineers to make that a reality. And then they can keep on asking for more changes, more like drafts of the same thing, and then the prompt engineer can figure out how to get that done. Then there is still going to be a human component that kind of works in synergy with the AI to be like, okay, there are certain aspects that after a couple of prompts as well, you can't really get right. Like there are, maybe it's the expression, right? You can type, show me a worried person on.
It's not the best at emotion. At this
It's not the
stage.
best at emotion. It's not the best at realistic emotion. It can, when you say, can you make someone more worried, they might make them more anxious,
Like that.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And recently there was something going viral. I don't know if that still exists, but even like the top AI models in the world, if you tell them, can you create a full glass of wine, right? They will still give you a glass of wine that's half full. That's considered full as per normal standards, right? A full glass of wine means a wine
But
glass
an
being
AI
half
will
full.
make it full.
The AI cannot fill it to the brim. It just cannot, because it is based on the data available. It has scoured the internet, and all images of full glasses of wine have the wine filled up to halfway level. So there are still aspects that will require a human touch. The final touches, as I said, like you are doing majority of the work, but then there is a human coming in and adding their creative spark to it to make something go from ordinary to extraordinary.
Yeah.
So it's going to be restructure. So there is going to be one creative director, then there is going to be a creative analyst or a creative research team, then there is going to be a couple of prompt engineers, there's still going to be some graphic designers, or like the actual copywriters who are going to take the generic sounding copy and then make it extraordinary, but even if it is by changing one or two words. And again, the decision has to be human. So that the creative director can, of course, take a decision on the copy. But now you're overloading the creative director with too many decisions. Decision on which graphic to finalize, decision on what copy to finalize, what changes. Even if the creative director says, oh, I like this or I don't like this. There needs to be someone who takes that, puts it into perspective and makes the right changes. Right?
Yeah.
So
I agree with you on that kind of org chart you've kind of described. And I think humans are very good at finding new things to do.
Exactly.
And new ways of working.
New ways of getting
what I stand behind is the roles that exist today will be dramatically different tomorrow.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we have touched upon this topic, right? You need to incorporate the newest technology into your work. This is like someone in 2013 or 2000 and not in the early 2000s saying, well, I don't, have you heard about this new thing called computer? I don't think I need it for my work anymore, right? You need to learn it in order to get better at your job. You don't need to learn it because that's going to take your job away. It's just making you better at what you do and repurposing your skill set to a much more refined place where you can maximize your output.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I was thinking about this in my own personal context with using the best technology for your job or your life, right? And so I have an iPhone and I hate it. It's not that I don't like the technology, I think it's fantastic, but I'm just sick of all the different apps and all the notifications. All I really want is WhatsApp, email, and calendar, phone. That's all I want. That's really all I use.
Right.
All the other stuff is just noise because I'm not on any social media.
Right.
I'm only on LinkedIn, and that's for work purposes, right? So I just want it all off. So I want someone to invent a phone that gives me those capabilities. But then if I was just having that, like I go back to a Nokia, because I'm trying to get rid of all of that noise, right? I will be so much less productive than anybody else. I would have access to less information than everybody else. And that just puts me in a negative position.
Right.
So it's like that for any role. And I agree, if you're not using the latest technology for your job and you're not spending time looking at new technology as well,
right,
because it's evolving at such a frantic pace,
right,
the levels of innovation that is happening on a weekly basis. I spend probably half of my working day looking at different AI products, new ones that are coming out every single week.
Right.
And I'm not even scratching the surface.
I agree, and I agree with you fundamentally, because yesterday was the first time that I actually coded an entire page. Right? It was something that we needed for a marketing event. I basically tried to get more information on doing something that I would have normally asked my tech team to do, and we tried multiple ways of kind of finding a way to do it, and we had to add some plugins from multiple sources. We would have to create an account, maybe something else. I basically had a pretty long conversation with an AI, right? And it was quite productive. It gave me code that I had to change approximately 6 times based on just taking the code, putting into a code tester, seeing the output, and then recommending the changes that I want. And it kept on saying, yes, of course, I'll make those changes. It all made the changes in the code, gave me a summary of what the code was about, what changes were made, and how it can be made even better, right? So yes, you are right. Every day there's something new, but the basics have already been, or the foundation has already changed. Now the basic requirement has changed. Now how we grow on top of that is something that's essential. However, one key, I would say, trap that a lot of people are falling into is that they think they need to know everything about every AI and every tool available, and that makes it
Information overload.
Information overload in a way that they end up thinking that there is an AI for everything. There are some things that are still faster to do on your own, right? And these are the smaller things. Like if I was to get a tagline, or if I was to get a copy, right? Everything in the copy looks great. It's just that there is some repetition at the end of it. And now, instead of plugging that whole thing again into an AI and saying, can you remove the repetition, where it gives you multiple variations of that ad copy, I think it would be more productive to kind of just be like, okay, what are the things that I can use over here? Maybe I'll just plug in a few and I'll see what sounds better in my mind. Now, I'm actually creating a better version of the copy, removing the problem that I had without going to an AI, right? The same thing. Everything does not require an AI, and you don't require an AI for everything. There are certain aspects that are much more efficient now as compared to earlier because of AI. But if you start relying on AI for everything that you do, you are either gonna have a very generic result, right? Something that is so generic that it does not stand out in any way or form, right? Or you're gonna basically lose your creative edge because then you don't really add anything to the conversation.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody on Wednesday that said, they asked their staff, could you go and research this topic?
Right.
And they used AI to do the deep research, gave them the document, and then the question from the guy who requested it back to his employee was, could you just give me a summary of what it's about? And they couldn't.
Yeah.
Because they had lost that human touch where they just went, AI, do my job. Okay, there you go.
Exactly.
Right.
They did not even review it.
Yeah. Humans are great at being lazy.
Right.
We're very good at being lazy, and that's essentially what happened there. And obviously, adopting new technologies. It always has hurdles whenever you're doing any form of kind of change management within an organization, within a team, or as an individual, right? From your experience, what are some of the kind of, and if I take this context back to advertising,
right?
What are some of the kind of biggest hurdles that people face when they're changing and bringing predictive AI into their business, when they're starting to integrate that into their creative process? What are some of the biggest hurdles they go through, and perhaps how do they overcome them?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is definitely skepticism, right?
Okay.
Because there are two, I would say, groups of people. One that say that, AI can do anything and everything, and the other group that says, well,
AI won't replace
I don't
me.
think, I don't think AI can be trusted at all. My point is, you need to find ground somewhere in the middle of it, right? As I said, if you don't want it to be too generic, then you need to add something that something unique that you bring to the table. But at the same point in time, it's making your work much faster, much more efficient. So predictive AI, for a matter of fact, there might be people or there might be companies that first go and say, but how do you know that this is true? Well, my answer is it's not. I cannot say
predictive.
with any more certainty that it's true. It is predicting based on certain data points. That is, it is actually doing what your gut does, what your intuition does. Your intuition does nothing but actually subconsciously relying on a lot of past data points to say whether or not something looks right or looks wrong. It can articulate it much better. So that's the reason that we are employing this. But we are not going to stop at that. We're not just going to take everything that the AI says and implement it exactly the way that it says it wants it to be implemented. We are still going to take a lot more emotions. We are going to add context to it. We are going to add semantics to it. Our graphic team is actually going to take each component, evaluate it. We have to match it to your brand deck, to the occasion that we are celebrating. For example, recently we had Ramadan in Malaysia and across the world, right? So for Ramadan, a lot of advertisers wanted to have Ramadan themed creatives, and now an AI can basically take the word Ramadan and try to find some images, but a lot of times it might go too stereotypical, and that might actually come out in the negative way. A brand might sound or look a lot of it might look very stereotypical if it's utilizing AI for all its generative purposes, right? Because it does not get the nuance of how much or what needs to be used or what can be used or how it's going to be perceived. It can say where the attention is going to be, but how it's going to be perceived, that's still a very human thing, right? So there is skepticism, and there is a justified skepticism over there. Skepticism over there. The problem that I face over here is when a lot of companies say, well, I don't think AIs can do what humans do. Well, yes, you're right, but we're not asking them to do it. The second thing, or the other challenge that we face in a lot of cases, is data, right? Because a lot of companies want to ensure that the data is secure, and everything that you feed into an AI is basically data that you're giving outward. Whether it's your chat GPT, whether it's your DeepSeek, or if it's something else. And a lot of our data is out there that we don't know about any which ways, but especially companies get a little extra cautious when it comes to
especially customer data and things that they have to keep private and secure.
The third is the learning loop. A lot of times AIs can be implemented, but the learning loops are not completed. So AI is going to be as good as the inputs are. If the inputs are not good, if your ideation is not good, if your overall theme is not good, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, I remember speaking to somebody about that, and they said that if you treat your chat GPT like your intern, it will act like an intern.
Right.
If you treat it like a creative director, it will act like a creative director. And so it's like monkey see, monkey do.
Right.
Right. So you put stupid in, you get stupid out.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the best way that you could have summarized it. You cannot. Yes.
I've also noticed if I touch on the skepticism side of the topic, I've noticed people who are like, nah, it's not very good, and then they try it. They prove their own point because they put in a shitty prompt or what have you, and it doesn't come out perfectly in one shot.
Right.
They're like, nah, I could do better.
Exactly.
And that's a bias. That's like their own skeptic bias.
Exactly, and that's what my next point was going to be, which is their own biases, because everyone has their own life experiences, whether it's worked, lived, or heard experiences, but you cannot predict with any more accuracy than the AI whether something is going to happen or not. But the AI can predict it more accurately than you.
Yes.
Because it is relying on unbiased data points, it might still have a false understanding of what's going to happen maybe 3, 4, 5% of the times. But because its math is sound, because its data is sound, it's going to have a higher chance of success. So out of 100 times you're using this, maybe you will have an unsuccessful campaign or creative maybe 5 times, as compared to it being closer to 50 times with an inexperienced person, and a more experienced person can probably still get the number up as high as 70 or 65%, but it's always going to have a lot more bias. AI kind of removes that bias, reduces the time. It can analyze, our AI analyzes the creative within a matter of 3 to 4 seconds. there are still some things that we need to kind of train it to do. For example, if we give the AI an ad, a very clean ad of just, let's say we're talking about a fan company, we give the AI an ad, a creative which just has the fan right, center, the product name, the brand name, and the call to action all in a line. It'll say good creative, right? Because it is a good creative. It's a. I'm not saying it's a bad creative. It's not taking it into the fact that this creative is going to be fighting for attention. It is predicting what will happen after the human eye rests upon this creative.
Yeah.
Saying that okay, it's nice, clean, it highlights the right parts of a particular the messaging. That's why it's good. But now when we then give it another context, or we give it the prompt saying that this is an ad that has to highlight or kind of emphasize family values, etc., then we put a family in the background. Then we basically have a nice house or a living room set up. Then there's a fan, and then there is a text, and then there's the call to action. Now the attention focus shifts from the brand name to the faces of the family, which is good because now you're setting the tone in the first 2 seconds. You're looking at smiling faces, which is better than being bombarded with a message saying buy now.
Oh yeah.
Right? Then your eye goes to the product name, then it goes to the product USP, then it goes to the brand name, or it could be some other order depending on however you want to play it, and then there's the call to action. After the user has consumed all of this information, then giving them the call to action saying no more, buy now, visit our online store, find the store location, no matter what the call to action is then, right? Driving footfall, whatever the objective may be. Once you have delivered the right message, then after delivering the right message, the user still chooses not to interact with your banner, then they might not be the right user for you. That can also be a possibility, right? So we have to go through a lot of these things, and that's how predictive AI has been assisting. And there are skeptics when it comes to the utilization of this. However, there are a lot more people who are starting to understand. We just take recommendations from the AI. We send them the recommendations saying that this is what the recommendations are. And if you would like, we would do A/B testing. We would gladly do A/B testing. We'll take your creative, we'll take it as per your storyboard, we'll take it as per your requirements, and we'll create one over there. We'll create a modified version of that using the AI recommendations. We can A/B test this, and we can see which one gets better performance. And then sometimes the performances are pretty matched. I'm not saying they're not, but let's say that we're talking about something as basic as CTR, or we are talking about brand recall, right? These are things that can be measured with using BLS studies or just on the go.
Yeah.
But we see probably a difference of 1-2 points. Sometimes we see a difference of 20 points, wherein the AI-based creative is 20 points better. Sometimes we'll see a -1 point, that the AI is worse than the ones that they have recommended. And then we have another data point to then start doing the process again.
I guess that's like the Kaizen method of looking for that continuous percentile gains, even in the small 1 percentile. But if you can get 1% a day, your exponential improvement there. Right?
Exactly. And that's how we have reached this place, because AI is based on machine learning, which is constantly giving in the right inputs, actions, and then getting the output.
And if I was to kind of start to think of one of our last topics I'd like to talk to you about today is, what do you think the future will look like for predictive AI? And when I say future, I don't mean like the next 1 or 2 years. I'm thinking in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you think predictive AI is going to go, especially for advertising?
I mean, predictive AI is already doing or making waves. I don't know if predictive AI is going to be the one that will be driving majority of the changes, but definitely in the close future, let's take the 3-year mark for example, there will be a lot more personalization in ads based on instant feedback, there'll be instant there'll be a continuous feedback loop that's created. There will be a lot more trust on the AI, so the advertisers might just give it more control, saying that okay, within the boundaries that I'm setting for you, saying that you cannot change X, Y, and Z, you can change other aspects of the creative based on the feedback that you're getting on a real-time basis, right? That's predictive AI future, which is it's going to have a lot more live.
We'll be able to potentially do deep personalization to our campaigns,
right?
so that somebody who sees the same ad but is in Bangzar will get a slightly modified Bangzar version to Monkiara, for example. We could get it down to that level. Not that you would have much difference between the two.
Yeah, but the problem is that already exists. What you're saying already exists.
Okay.
Now we're predicting, saying like let's say we are predicting that this person is in office right now because of how or when they have accessed or when we have shown them ads and the location based on that particular. When I say location, I mean general. I don't want people to start freaking out about the fact that AI
we're actually tracking your exact location right now.
But the point being that it can identify certain schedules, certain routines, and that can predict where a particular person is going to be instead of where they are, and then start showcasing certain aspects of it. For example, if a person is on a weekend at a mall, the way that digital ads work is that there is an ad request. So when they access some app or a website that has an ad code, the website will request the advertiser saying that do you have an ad to show this particular user. Now with that request goes in the location. Now identifying with that location or lat long coordinates, the AI can identify, okay, this location is that of a mall. Is this a mall where my store is present? Is this a mall that I can now show, or rather showing the user an ad for my product right now and giving them a 10% on the spot discount? Is that more likely to make them more or less likely for them to visit the store? And will that impact my overall sales at the end of the month? Not just from this user, but from all the users that I'm doing this for. So now predictive AI is not just customizing or personalizing the creatives, is actually doing dynamic creative optimization to a much more predictive level.
Wow.
Right? Dynamic creative optimization currently exists to the fact that what you said, which is I am in Bangsar, I'm going to be shown a different creative based on the fact that I'm in Bangsar. Right? Predictive AI can actually predict, saying that okay, this person is a shopper based on all the past data that I have about this particular person, right? And this is not just for advertising externally, internally as well.
And I was just having a thought, about what you're predicting the future to look like. Yeah, obviously let's take the UK. The UK is very high streety,
yes,
rather than malls, right? So you've probably got like a 1 mile square radius of different shops around different streets. Like that.
Right.
So let's say I'm at the bottom of town and I'm having a coffee. I open my app, I'm looking at stuff, and you realize I'm at the bottom of town, and my store, which we'll say is a shoe store, is a 5 minute or 7 minute walk from your house,
right?
From my location. I can go, hey, like the ad could be super personalized in the sense, I got 30% off if you just walk 7 minutes in this direction. We'll have a voucher waiting for you.
Exactly.
You could get advertising down to that level.
Yes, and again, that is something that is already being done or will be done in a much better way in the next 1 year. But in 3 years' time, what it's going to do is real time. It's going to analyze the lifetime value of the user by providing them certain specialized or personalized coupons, codes, saying that this is not applicable for everyone. So instead of you, if someone else goes walking 7 minutes, they might not get the same offer.
Yeah.
Why? Because
they're not worth as much.
I know, exactly. I know based on the past data points that you are a much more valuable customer to me.
And also it could be that I'm a brand new customer, so it's always more expensive to get a new customer. So you're you're more willing to pay those vouchers or what have you to get the new CAC.
Exactly. Or I know that you are not just a new customer, but someone who is loyal to my competitor.
Yeah.
Now I need
So
to.
you wanna get me in the door, and
Exactly.
you're willing to buy my access.
So predictive AI is gonna just not is gonna take the data points that are currently available, like location, the user, the IP, what kind of. So basically, when you go onto YouTube or Facebook, they already have some sort of a persona made about you, saying that okay, this person, as you were discussing on TikTok, that this person likes business, this person likes dogs, this person likes AI, and now they can recommend the right products or advertising products for you, or they can recommend you or sell you as a product to the advertiser, saying that this person is your target audience, you should advertise to him. That being said, now with all of these data points and getting more information about, like, your past interactions with the brand itself, so first party data, now you can get much more realistic or much more predictive offers, advertising, couponing. It can actually go and cater messaging to your likely to something that you like. For example, instead of showing you an ad for shoes, your shoes, it might already have the data point that you have recently purchased shoes from their store. It might show you an ad for a similar or the same exact shoe, but in a baby size.
Yeah.
Maybe saying that, okay,
Because
why
I
not?
know I have a 3-year-old son.
Exactly.
Now. Your kid probably needs shoes more often than you.
Right. and that's the beauty of it. It can predict not just so it can predict on the base of data points. Again, now this is going to a much more futuristic outlook, but even currently, as we said, it is not only predicting where your attention is going to be, but how your attention or how your eyeballs will move. Now it can actually, on real time basis, certain aspects or certain permissions can track. For example, if you have a billboard, like an interactive billboard, or you have something like the smaller screens that you see at the malls, those can actually be completely interactive. AI can also create, or predictive AI can help create much more VR, AR based experiences, for your audiences that are custom, personalized, premium to them, predicting on the basis of their past data, predicting on the data that you have collected from your multiple sources. Let's say you have had a billboard up for a month already. It has already collected data points. It has probably rotated the banner much more often. That's dynamic creative optimization. That's fine. On the basis of time of day, and crowd, etc., it can change the creative. But now it's taking real-time feedback from how many eyeballs are falling onto it, maybe, or it's correlating that billboard ad to the store that you have in the same mall, and seeing how the sales are interacting with the different creatives, and then optimizing it based on that. So all of this prediction based, analysis based, data driven but futuristic, or rather probabilistic, are things that predictive AI can be or will be doing.
Wow. Hell of a prediction. Very exciting, probably a little bit scary, of what advertisers will be able to do in the near future. Mo, we've got to get you back on in 5 years to see if it comes true.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do a catch up another 2 years down the line,
Every
and then
2 years we do a
every 2
recording,
years,
bring you
right?
back on.
I think I need this as well, because these conversations are so they make me think a lot as well, because I rarely get to talk at length about certain topics that we utilize these data points in our day-to-day conversations with clients, etc. But having an open conversation and understanding questions, as well as like feedback or opposing data points from other people, is quite interesting. I think and I think you should definitely be looking at doing more, like of course the one-on-one podcasts are great, but why don't you do like sort of a panel as well?
Actually, I have that planned.
Oh, awesome.
With about early stage investment here in Malaysia. I'm going to get Cradle, which is government,
Yes.
and some venture capitalists who are not happy with Cradle.
Wow.
And I'm going to have them debate.
That is going to be
Oh yeah. Well,
quite
I've got to get
interesting.
through the ministry, but I'm working my ass off to make it a reality.
I'm sure you will get that done. I mean, if
And we'll get
anything,
you on as well with an anti-advertiser or something like
yes,
that.
for sure. I would
Yeah.
love to kind of be part of any such debate relating to my field of
Yes,
expertise.
yeah, of course, of course.
I wouldn't know anything about venture capitalism.
There's many topics to discuss. But Mo, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. As always, it was a pleasure talking to you.